So the thing about real estate, if you're a realtor, in April 15th, 2014, is that you got to realize these are the best of times and the worst of times all at the same time. We had basically since 2007 what was a buyer's market, the buyer's rule. Everyone wanted a buyer because it was harder to sell listings. The market was soft in 2007. It was definitely soft in 8, 9, and 10. A little better in 11, a little better in 12. But we had been accustomed, our industry, title companies, everyone was accustomed to the buyer driving what was happening. And then because of the shortage of inventory, and then the optimism kicked back in, basically after a presidential election, there was just this wave of optimism that kicked in, regardless of politics. And it just, at least it was over and people moved forward. They just moved on. A lot of recessions are just, they're emotional and psychological. People didn't spend because it didn't look good to spend money. When I had to replace my Range Rover, I bought the exact same color of Range Rover because it didn't look good to buy a brand new $95,000 car in 2008. It didn't look good, and there again, my sellers were suffering every day. What are you going to do today to sell my house? And the answer is I'm going to do the same thing today I did yesterday, but I had to park my car at the front spot at 7 in the morning so they could damn well see me on their way to carry their kids to school, and they needed to see me sitting there at 6:30 at night, because that was the expectation, that you had to be doing something. 2013, the market changed, and it changed more rapidly than it had ever changed before in the history of real estate in our markets here in Houston or anything. I mean, maybe the gold rush of 1845 in California, but I mean, it's insane how rapidly it changed, and people could not keep up with the correction of how it changed. And so we have total imbalance in the marketplace, and we shifted directly over to the sellers. It's a seller's market. It's clearly a seller's market where sellers rule, and buyers don't feel good about it. But we didn't feel very good about it when the buyers offered $100,000 less on every offer in 2008 either. So it didn't feel particularly good then. It doesn't feel particularly good now. But our mindsets have to shift. So we have basically three topics: the realtor side, the buyer side, and the seller side. Let's start with the realtor side. The reality of the realtor side is that when times are bad, people drop out of real estate. They go back to teach school, they keep saying the flight attendant at United, they go and they hang on to their job and they don't quit their job. I interviewed so many people in 2008, 9, and 10, and basically I said, I got great agents who can't make a living. Keep your day job. Don't get into real estate, because it wasn't good. And many people fell out. We lost probably 25% of the realtors in the Houston Association of Realtors. We dropped down to about 20,000 realtors. Today we're back up to 26,000. People couldn't pay their dues in 2008, 9, 10, and they can easier pay their dues now. So we're facing a period that there's going to be a whole hell of a lot more realtors, which means a lot more competition for those that are in it. I mean, it's good times in real estate. People are reading how good it is in real estate. They don't really know exactly what that means. It means there's going to be a lot more realtors, a lot more competition for realtors, and because there's more competition for realtors, many of them are not going to be as well trained or as competent as we would like for them to be, and it will create another round of frustration. But we're going to see more and more agents. You're going to see more and more real estate firms. You're going to see more discount brokers. I think that's what we're going to see. Is from your perspective, you're going to compete with more people than you would have competed with in 2011 or 12. It's just going to be that way. More and more people are going to go get their license and want to be in real estate because it's the boom time of real estate. So just get ready for more competition. It's another reason I think you have to figure out, one of the goals today is, what am I doing to set myself apart from X, Y, and Z? From Heidi Dugan, what am I doing to set myself apart from her? What am I doing to set myself apart from a brand new agent? What am I doing to set myself apart from someone who's been in it 5 years? You constantly have to be thinking about that sort of thing. What we're going to do to differentiate yourself, you from your next door neighbor or across the street neighbor, or I mean, at the Westview Baseball League, I know there's 50 mothers that are realtors, and they are where there used to be fewer. Everyone's going to be a realtor today, I've decided. So, but it's fine. I mean, can't blame them for that. We all got in it for certain reasons. They're going to get in it for certain reasons, but there's definitely going to be increased competition. And it's harder to get visibility because the consumer doesn't shop the way the consumer shopped before. It's internet related. There's people, it's the Facebook. I look at when, if I make a decision about something, how many people can go to Nextdoor and how many people can go anonymously and through Yelp and through all those sort of things. It's because you don't have to put your face out there, your name out there. You can criticize someone, there's no retribution, they don't even know who you are. People are more critical than they used to be because they don't have to own up to the criticism anymore. It can be anonymous. And so the buyer is much the same way, the seller all the time. They're shopping around on the internet. I think it's a direct, we talked about this yesterday. The phone rings less because people don't use the phone. They used to use the phone, pick up the call, and call the realtor. That's not the way people shop anymore. They go online, they do the research. I promise you, 99% of the phone calls I get, the people know more about the house than I do. They know how to get on to the HAR app quicker than I do. I mean, this morning a guy called, asked me, I'm a friend of a friend, I live on Aldrich, I want to know about a fourplex on Crockett. It's been on the market 14 days, they have a 13% reduction. He's telling me this. I'm in the laundry room with no clothes on. I know all about it, But I could talk about what was going on in the First Ward, how the historic district is going on, how the city has cracked down on fourplexes, units greater than 2, and so there's this movement take a fourplex, make it into a duplex, and I knew about the sale of Rubiana Food. I knew something he didn't know, which is what he needs from me, but he knew more about that property than I did, and that's how they are. He had shopped around, he'd been watching it, and so the consumers are less likely to call for the reasons they would have called 2 years ago or 5 years ago. That they still will inquire. Many of them will use the internet by emailing or whatever, but at some point they probably will call. But they're also more impatient than ever before. When they email, they expect an answer, in 10 seconds. Like we're sitting here with nothing better to do than to text them right back or email them right back. They have an unrealistic expectation of how long it takes to get an answer. And if they're so impatient, if they don't get it from you in 15 seconds, they move on to somebody else. And it's very frustrating phenomenon that you can't be in the bathroom, or you can't have a client in your car, or you can't be at your kid's 3rd grade final performance of the year. It's very, without your phone sitting right there texting as quickly as you can. I think there's this total shift, and because of this sense of urgency, it creates undue frustration on both sides. The buyer side gets frustrated, the seller side gets frustrated, and we get frustrated quicker than we used to. We're more frustrated about traffic than we used to be. We're more frustrated about the line at the Whole Foods than we used to be. We're more impatient with the FedEx guy who just throws the package in the front yard. And they're more frustrated. There is not this relaxed mode. And I think it's because there's not a balance in life. Once again, there's not this, the rich have gotten significantly richer and the other side haven't gotten significantly richer, proportionate-wise. There's a level of frustration. It's the division of Congress, it's the division of societies. I think there's a certain lack of cohesiveness in the world, and it kind of feeds upon itself and makes it more and more complicated. And there are certainly things I think one can do about it, but it's the snapshot of where we're at the moment. These buyers, it's very frustrating because I do think there's no loyalty with a lot of the buyers. So they call, they want something, they want you to do something that's next to impossible today, and they'll give you tomorrow, and maybe next week, and maybe they'll hang in a month, but at some point, they will flip to somebody else. The good thing about that for you is they'll flip from their loyal friend, and they might flip to you also. So it's not just one way. They keep flipping around there. So I think trying to build loyalty and trying to build a relationship is more difficult than ever, harder to do. And it makes the communication aspect of dealing with buyers and sellers way more important than it used to. We used to have a brief conversation, now it's a long explanation, and it's continually having to remind people of the same things over and over and over again. So I think if you get the chance to work with the buyer, you've got to set a realistic expectation. We used to just meet a buyer and hop in a car and go look at a house. And I think we need to spend less time doing that, although that's not important, and more time visiting with them in an environment that's being more informative. I think you've got to go and show, when it says days on the market and the average is 3, remember that's the average, which meant half of them were sold before they went on the MLS, and the other half took 7 days, and we ended up with the average. You've got to set a more realistic expectation about timing, movement, and what one wants. Some people just want to test the market. Some people want to buy a house. If you want to test the market, you can lollygag around and think about it for a few days. But most people who are serious in the market, I'm saying many times, they offer their $10,000 or $20,000 before they've ever seen the house. I mean, that's what you have to do to go get something today. And it's created this false sense of speed and anxiety one more time. Because are those people really real if they haven't even seen the house yet? But they're just trying to get something under contract so they can figure out if they really want it or not. But I think you have to, I almost think we need the weekly meeting with the buyer. Like we used to give weekly feedback to the seller. We need sit downs with them and say, look, here's what's happened. Here's the things that closed in March. The average price of what closed in price range 700 to 1.2 million in West U was $32,000 over the asking price. It was $10,000 over the asking price in 2013. Now $10,000 isn't even in the running if a property is on the market for the first few days. I mean, 10 is nothing. And so, Star's clients the other day, they started offering $10,000 less, lost every house. Then they started offering full price. Now they're starting offering $10,000 more, and they're getting frustrated. We didn't do a very good job of setting the expectation that you wasted your time the first 5 offers. You wasted your time because 10 below wasn't even under consideration. Full price isn't under consideration. And 10,000 probably isn't under consideration today.
But okay, I have a question with that when you're saying wasting expectations. I understand that, but what if, some of my buyers are being really stubborn and they're like, no, I'm not gonna, and no matter how many times I tell them, you're gonna have to at least go in asking, if not over, and they're like, I refuse. And so what are we supposed to do? Because we're letting them know how aggressive the market is and that they're gonna lose the house, but
I guess can you just pull all the previously
Show
sold
us
sales?
If you listed a house today for X number, would you take less than the full price today?
yeah.
And you're going to get multiple offers, and so you wouldn't even take the full price offer today.
Yeah.
If you offered full price, the immediate seller is going to think the realtor's underpriced it to begin with,
Yeah.
right? They're not as anxious to take it today. They're willing to wait 3 days, 5 days, and see how much more above asking. So you have to put that, Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, here's the reality of where we're at. Don't you see that this is where the selling side is going to be? Here's the data to back it up. Here's the reality of the marketplace. And so I'm happy to write the offers. I just don't want you to get frustrated with me. And if you put it back on, many buyers want us to do that very thing, test the waters and see what's going to happen.
Where are you getting the statistics from, HAR?
You can get them from HAR.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you just have to narrow down in the price range too, because you can't take the whole thing and say it was 1% over, because you've got to, I think if you look at the hot pockets of whatever, if it's Oak Forest at 300 and at 750, if it's West U at 700 and $1.2 million, if it's River Oaks at $1.5 million and 2.5, there's these entry-level price, and then there's the reality price of the neighborhood, and you have to kind of look at both and see what's happening over there.
I want to validate what Tara said. Okay, I had a buyer, wants to buy in West U. I have $1.2 million. So I said, first of all, we should just talk about managing your expectation. First thing out of her mouth, you'll never be able to manage our expectations. But what they really wanted was what's available at $1,300,000 to 3.5.
Right.
But they don't want to pay the 1.35. They don't wanna, I show them a house at a little under 1.2. I said, now you're gonna have to spend $200,000 to renovate it to the point where you think you're completely satisfied with it. Or, you know, like we went on that listing last year on Merrill. I said, or do you want to just go ahead and spend $150,000 more and move into a house that you don't have to do anything to, and you eliminate 6 weeks or 7 weeks of construction?
Right,
What works better for you, you know?
right.
And they always go back to, we're gonna find what we want for $1.2 million.
They're not going to though.
Yeah.
You just need to realize that what they're saying is not true. Just because it's said doesn't mean that it's true.
Right.
And you can't get too hung up on a buyer that doesn't have a realistic expectation.
Right.
At some point, I mean, you were upset that they decided to either stop searching or go with someone else. It wouldn't matter. You need to be grateful those people are out of your life and go get you a different buyer that has a more realistic expectation. Because sure, there's going to be buyers that are going to get frustrated and they will bring you down if you let them bring you down.
Right.
But you can't let them bring you down. You've got to, you can try other things. You can try routing them to a different subdivision that they wouldn't have known about, and you
Right.
continue to, but often they go and they come back. But yeah, I think in 2014, the market is not going to slow down any. It's not going to correct itself by June or July. There's too many buyers for each house that goes on. And
Right.
if, like I say, if there's 15 offers and 14 people are still in the marketplace when you accept an offer, that's not saying that there was 2 offers and there's 1 left.
Right.
There's plenty of people at every price range, at every section of the city. I pay attention to every section. Pearland, Willow Bend, Westbury, the East Side, the Woodlands, Cinco Ranch, the East Side, the high-rise market. There's plenty of buyers for every one of those properties. There will be 115,000 new Houstonian residents in 2014
Right.
that are going to want to live here. There's going to be 500,000 people who made more money or better bonus or are going to be in a better financial position to move this year, and they didn't move in 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. There's plenty of people that want to move back into these areas that we predominantly focus in that have been out in the suburbs for plenty of time. So we've got the stress of more people, better financial of the people that are here, and the people moving into the consolidated effort. All 3 of those things are working at the exact same time, at a time that the construction industry lost 60% of all of its workforce, and we can't kick out the properties fast enough.
Right.
I could build 100 houses, except I can't find a framer to start the one on 9th Street until September. So no, it's not going to be ready until 2015. There's not enough workers, there's not enough tile people. Center Point takes 3.5 weeks to get a gas line where it took me 1 day to get it in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. The permitting was taking almost 9 weeks to come out of the city of Houston, where I could have gotten it in 3 days in 2008.
Right.
It's just, there's the whole backlog of how it's worked. To replat takes, 9 weeks this time where it used to take a week and a half. The whole process takes longer because everyone is further and further behind. There's no component of it that's
Yeah.
evening out yet.
Well, and then I'll go ahead and embarrass the shit out of myself. So let me just tell you about a bush league mistake I made. So Bancroft Place, if you go down San Felipe, there's the Target. So the first street you can take a left on is Bancroft. So there's 19 townhomes over there. I'm looking on the listing, MLS, it's 1.3 to 1.6 million dollars. So, I'm trying to tease my client to say, look, we can go over here, let's just go look at it. So they look at it and they fall in love with it. First thing I said, we're here to look at the $1.3 million homes, and he goes, oh, we sold all of those. He goes, what we're gonna see today is $1.44 million homes. And then they said, but we'll throw in everything. We'll screen in the porch, we'll give you the washer and dryer, we'll give you the Sub-Zero ice box.
Right.
And we'll do a couple of other things for you. And she goes, we don't reduce our prices, we just toss in everything. So, but the Bush League mistake is to find out beforehand that those 1.3, because they don't change the
You gotta talk to the
MLS.
salesperson.
Once it's on there for 1.3, they'll never change it. you
Because
know?
they were trying to get you in on
Right.
They are, that's the car salesman doing the same thing,
Yeah.
I
it.
mean.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I caught myself on one, there was, right behind Commonwealth Title, throwing right, we're building these really elegant townhomes. They put a big article in Houston's paper that there's gonna be like 20 townhomes there, and they start at 1.3 and they go to 2.4 million. And so I looked those up, but I called the realtor, and he goes, I said, do you have any of the 1.3s left? He goes, no, we sold those 2 years ago. But the article just came out in the newspaper, 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, they're way ahead. He goes, I have one left for $2.4 million,
Right.
you know?
Yes, dear?
Okay. How do you advise a client to pay? I mean, I can look at an area, and I'll give you an example. There was one, I just got off the phone with the realtor right when I came over here, and they already have an accepted offer, they just haven't changed it yet, so we're not even gonna go look at it, because, I hate teasing them like that, but, it's a discreet area, Charnwood, right off San Felipe, it's a pretty discreet area. This house, I looked at I threw out the highest, just went with what's in the last, 6 months, although there wasn't much in the last year. It's overpriced, according to the statistics.
If you just look backwards, you can't just look backwards. It's what the market will yield.
$40,000 and $50,000.
50's nothing. In the grand scheme of things, I think you're gonna have to have a new mindset. Your paradigm's gonna have to get washed over here.
So I tell them, and it doesn't matter, because they say, well, because this woman, my client, used to be a broker in California, and she's like, what are the comps? And so I tell her,
Comps are
and
just
I'm
looking
like,
back.
and I'm telling her, but they're not going to accept that. They're not going to take less.
The price
They still
of
want
beef
Cheetos.
today is higher than it's been ever since 1982, okay? If I averaged the price of beef 6 months ago and said it was $4.75 and now it's $5.82, I'd average it all day long, but they're not gonna sell me any beef at HEB because it was sold cheaper 6 months ago. I don't know why we have this old mindset. Those are gone. They're no longer. The price of beef is going to be determined by the fact that we've had a drought for 6 years and everyone sold off all the cows, and everyone in the pipeline can see that we're going to eat more beef and there's no beef coming down the pipeline. And so the price of beef is going to get higher. It doesn't matter what it was back then until you can tell me that there's a bunch of cows born over there and there's plenty of water here. The price of beef is not going to go down, folks. It's not going to go down.
So the reality is, it does not matter what the
Really,
comps say.
that's great.
You start
In
at
our
their
deal,
asking
this
price.
John Chapman and a guy from Brubaker and another guy, we sit in a deal off the MLS committee, and it's got realtors have got to get off of averaging these comps. I mean, you've got to weight the comps at 10% of the value and supply and demand at 90%. What is someone willing to pay today? That's really going to determine the value. Forget what's going on. They're all different. What makes your daughter different from your son, different from your twins? They're different. They're totally different. You can't say, well, Ginger started talking at 10 months, but Richard didn't talk till he was 2 years old. Well, let's average them and say, well, they should have been talking each at 14 months. This one started at 10 and this one started at 2. There's no relationship between the one that sold 6 months ago and the one that sold today. Even the David Weekley house, Plan 4138, that would have sold that. The cost of the material is 20% greater. The cost of the land was 20% greater. So if David Weekley sold that same plan, same faucet, same carpet 6 months ago, I promise you their cost went up by 20%, and they're going to sell the house for 20%, unless no one's willing to buy it. And the problem with the comp story is that someone's willing to pay the price.
You could trend the month-over-month historical comps and then extrapolate it if
Yeah.
you wanted to get, but that would be a little
I
complex.
mean, it's just,
I'm even taking like the highest per square foot, and this is still over, and things that sold like a week, and these are houses that were built.
if
after
you're
each
into the
other
market,
in 1960.
if I buy a lot on Coleridge and it's $425 and I sell the house on Coleridge for $1.3 million, then I buy a lot on Rice for $450 and I sell that same damn house, I just want to remind you, for $1,465,000. Then I buy a lot on Oberlin for $475 and sell that one for $1.5 million. Same house, Same 3 comps, 6 weeks apart in sales, 1.3, 1.465, 1.5. Now I paid $6.29 for Marquette yesterday. I paid $6.29 for Southwestern last month. The exact same house we're going to sell for $1,750,000. I'm going to add a fireplace. It'll be the only difference. And the bank, the appraiser, the investor, and the builder all agree we're going to get it just fine. You know what? How many new houses are going to be in Westview next year? How many are going to be priced from 1.5 to 2 million? There will not be 30 brand new houses on a full lot in Westview, zoned to Westview Elementary. I just need 30 people moving from Singapore, Japan, London, Paris, who want to live in Westview. That's all I need. Just need 30 in a city of 4 million. Can I get them? I think you can get them just fine.
What do you tell people that are like from California that are concerned because they have already gone through the rise and fall of the market? I don't know.
Our price is at $335 a foot, and Manhattan is at $3,500 a foot. Tokyo is at $7,000 a foot. Mexico City is at $9,000 a foot. Houston, Texas is still one of the cheapest markets in the nation, and for an international city of its stature, it is at 10 cents on the dollar in real estate compared to the other major metropolitan areas. You want to live in Mexico City or Houston?
That's true.
Ask them.
I hear.
It's ridiculous how less expensive we are compared to these other areas. When you really think of the amenities that they're getting. Largest bike trails in the country, largest amount of park space in the country. I mean, we've got amazing things going on. World-class medical facilities, amazing arts and entertainment. Is Houston. If you live in Detroit today,
Right.
you live in Baltimore today, you live in Boston today that had 28 days of snow. You want to live in Houston? You want to relocate your company to Houston, Texas, or Boston, Massachusetts? Boston is a beautiful place to visit. You want to live and work in Houston, Texas. And I just think the reality of it is we were undervalued for so long. And our prices, while we are comparing to what was a low, I mean, they're really still in check with our price per square foot is about the same as Las Vegas. I mean, it's not like it's that expensive. We're not remotely close to LA or San Diego or Sacramento or any of those sort of places. Not that it's California either. I think it's higher. It's the same thing. Do you think more people or less people are going to move to Houston, Texas? And do you think the price of oil is going to get less or more? And if anybody knows the answer to that, y'all let me know the month before. But I think if the supply of oil goes up, the demand in the other countries, in China and India and North Korea and Malaysia goes up, and so they just route it over there. I still think it's poised for continued redevelopment. The thing about the city is there's plenty of area for us to grow. I think a lot of these underdeveloped areas that have been historically very inexpensive, like maybe that little pocket neighborhood, are going to be rediscovered again. Afton Oaks, 2 years ago, I could have bought an 8,000 square foot lot for $450,000. I can't buy one for $750,000 today. It's over $100 a foot, where it was at $45 a foot 3 years ago. But if we're going to pay $100 in Westview or $110 in Westview, I might as well pay $110 in Afton Oaks. There's just as many people that want to live in Afton Oaks who don't want the traffic of Westview. If I'm going to pay $110 in Afton Oaks, sure makes $60 a foot in the Heights look pretty good, didn't it? We're really selling the same kind of house today. They've got the same biking range, they got the same huge shower, they got the same walk-in closet, they got the same hardwood floors. Seems to me like the value of dirt in the Heights is going to go up also, right? It's not going to go down. It's 45% of what Afton Oaks and Westview is.
Who wants to live on Yale? Last
A
year,
business wants to live on
Yeah.
Yale.
last year, the Yale prices per square foot was $45 a square foot. I called Chris Dre last week. I said, what's Yale going for this, now? He goes $65 a square
Like,
foot.
what's going on?
Oh, yes.
Huh?
Because if David Weekley or that guy building those 8 units right there can pay that, put them in there and sell it and make $400,000 worth of profit, we're all going to think, what am I going to wait for? I mean, I might as well just pay $65 a foot
Right.
today. It's the value perception from the buyer has got, you can't just look backwards. You've got to look what is someone willing to pay in the marketplace for that? I think we're gonna have to weight that 90% and say, here was some comps, but same thing. If you made 60,000 in 2008 and you made 100,000 in 2010 and you made 140,000 in 2013, you don't want to average the years and say, what are you going to make in 2014, the average of those three? No, your expectation is that you're going to make 185,000, right? It's not that you're going to go backwards. And the problem is when we've been in the recessionary period and the period was backwards, it's hard to see that. Why does Google pay $19 billion for that other company when it had a book value of $6 billion? Because if they don't get it for that price, someone else was. And so it's. I think we're in rising prices, and does one have to be realistic? They have to be realistic on the prices, but I think the cost of goods is significantly greater, and the cost of the dirt is significantly greater. And as long as the cost of money is at 2%, like we discussed yesterday, people don't care.
But it also is like a reverse thing. Like there's a house that my clients put an offer on, and they were asking $899, and he said, what do you think what do you think we should offer? And I was like, well, everybody else is offering full price, but it was on the market for 41 days. And so they offered $25,000 less, and they accepted it.
41 days is an eternity
It really is.
in our market.
And we
People
can't
only
figure out
want a
why.
house in the first 10 days.
Yeah, it's
okay?
weird. And
If
so
it's
the
there
value
greater than
has
10
this-
days, now the whole thing we just talked about offering goes out
Right.
the door, and you start over, because people then, the psychology of it is, if nobody got it in the first day or the first 2 days, it's either way overpriced or there's something wrong
Something
with
wrong
it.
with
Or
it.
the seller's an asshole, or there's some unrealistic expectation,
Yeah.
or there's some reason why it's there. So yeah, the only opportunity one has is for the houses that have been on the market for quite a while.
I mean, the only thing we can figure out, because we got the inspections done, I mean, the AC needs to be replaced the next couple of years, but even that's not a big deal.
Right.
And it has a pool, but the front of the house looks like a little cottage, even though the back is real big, and it's painted really elaborately. Like, it's very, very decorated. And my clients like it, but maybe that's what turned people off. I mean, I have no idea.
The chance for a buyer is something that's been on the market greater than 30 days, or something that needs work. That Omar house we had yesterday, we got it was $850, we got under contract for $860 or $870 2 times, and it fell out really through no fault of their own. But then we've been on the market
Yeah, so.
for 45 days or something by then. We'd gone through 2 contracts. So then it was a tough sale. So when we pulled it off at Christmas, which was the plan, just give it a break, let them enjoy Thanksgiving, Christmas, we went back in and we spent literally, I think it was about $8,500 putting in the Carrera marble in the countertops, which were white Formica, took out the hunter green backsplash and put in some subway tile, took out the tile granite from the from the master bathroom remodel in '96, and put in slab Carrera, left the brass fixtures, I'll just be honest with you, and raised the price $10,000, and then got an offer at $880 is what we got under contract for, and then we gave them the $7,500 for repairs and ended up at $872,500. Raised the price.
So you think that's what was wrong with the house, was the Formica?
I think that there were a number of things when people look at, had carpet upstairs,
Yeah.
kitchen needed a remodel, the bathroom needed a remodel, the laundry room was really outside.
Right.
People will take one item, or maybe 2, but when they had the laundry list, it was too many things to check off the box.
And all those weird shapes, like upstairs,
Yeah.
seem like that would turn someone off.
It
I
doesn't
thought
work
that
for
one room
everyone.
though was cool though if you had like more than one child,
Uh-huh.
because it was big enough to where
I
they
thought
could
it
share a
was.
room.
Uh-huh.
Because I had that client, but then I couldn't see it that weekend, so it
Mhm.
would have been perfect for them.
Right. Yeah. It's always the one that are gone. It was for sale for like 4 months.
I know, but then once
They
y'all
always
went
want the
in
one
the
that's
kitchen, it
gone.
went so fast.
Yeah. I knew.
That
we
was
did-
actually one of the things, like, because I had done the open house, 3 or 4 times, and that was one of the things people would say is, the house is adorable, but this kitchen, that green color on the back is just horrible.
That was $300
Yeah.
to change that out to
Yeah.
subway tile. It was nothing.
Yeah.
Those
It
are
was
always
nothing.
such-
I mean, but people, they have more
They
money than
have
time.
it.
They just would rather at 2%, just have it already done, and they don't want a project. So people that want a project, have a chance of getting a bargain. I think the search is, the new search ought to not be what's new on the market, it ought to be what's 30 days or greater on the market,
Yeah.
And same thing, I think instead of people signing 6-month listing agreements, they're gonna sign less and less, and they're gonna get They want to change their realtor so much quicker than ever before. I mean, after 30 days, they want to switch. I mean, 1415 Columbia, saying that he was in a listing agreement, but he asked to get out, and that Renee Sorrell let him out. That's where I got that. You know, but a lot of people, they're going to have the same, if there's not activity quick on their house, they're going to ditch the realtor. We visit with them all the time. When they're in a listing agreement, you know, they approach the firm, say, you know, what can I do to get out of my listing? There's nothing you can really, you've got to ask to get out and see if your agent's going to let you out. The Sudols of the world are not going to let you out. You know.
So what did you tell him that you would do differently than what Renee did?
Well, I mean, Renee had never sold a house for 1.2 million in Area 9 yet, and I have 11 listings at 1.2 million, so I got a fighting chance of taking one of the 9 people that didn't get 9th Street for 1.2 million, that had no grass in that backyard and only a pool and the bedrooms all upstairs, and try and route them back over there. They had not had a showing, they only had 2 showings in 6 weeks. He had 2 showings yesterday, okay? I thought their photography was shit. It was all at night and everything was dark. We told them, you should just have Renee take new photos during the daytime or whatever, but we wanted to make it lighter and brighter. Also, at the 3rd time, you can be way more direct. We gave them a laundry list. Power wash the house, stain the front door, clean the gutters, repaint the hallway, don't cook Indian food at night. You know, we were very specific of about 10 things that we wanted done differently or whatever. And it seems, some of it seems to have worked so far. But we'll see. It's a non-traditional house. We just need one person that wants a non-traditional house in a neighborhood. There's always someone that wants a modern one, always someone that wants something different. I think it will sell. Yeah, I think we're able to be a little more direct.
I was just curious.
Those were the things we did, right? I mean, I think you do when you get them, when you get the seller who wants to fire their agent quickly or whatever, you get this chance to make them do something.
Yeah.
You know, the price, they're certainly willing to take less. We didn't drop the price because they're in the range of all the other comps. So we're going to get the same looks at 2.25 or 1.95. It was going to be the same. That psychologically they need to be prepared to take $30 or $40 or $50,000 less, which they are, which will be fine. Then it'll make a buyer feel good because they're going to come in. They're not going to offer full price, right? It's been on the market, you know. So we know they're going to offer $100,000 less. This is the expectation, and then we'll try and see if we can't settle at 50. And every side ought to feel good about it. Then, right? The buyer got a deal in a market that's hard to get a deal. Seller got out of it.
Yeah.
You know, move on down the road there. But yeah, I think we're dealing with a lot of buyer fatigue, and people trying to buy a house and they can't buy a house and they have money to buy a house and they're in a situation they don't want to be in. They're living with their parents, or they're living in a rent house, or they're living month to month, and the landlord jacks the rent up every month. And so we've got this frustration on the buyer side that's going to, it creates a lot of deal. And they want you to do something, find them a house. And remember, they're looking longer than you are. They're looking all day and night on their phone and on their iPad. They're constantly searching. And the minute something new pops up, they want to do something. Stop and do, And I have Sakeem behind, on 6th Street, kind of behind Jerry, whatever. He's the same way. He's in the marketplace. But, they'll call me and I'll say, this one's crap. It's crap. It's crap. Well, I want to see it. I want to see it. Okay, well, I'll send Brandon. You can look at it. And they're, okay, you're right. Again, for 100 times I've been right. If it was great, I would let you buy it, but it wasn't that great yet. But I think communicating. Don't give up on the communication, because I think you can establish loyalty if they see that you're working hard, if they see that you're dedicated, if you see that you're educating them. Sometimes you've got to prove that you're right, by doing the same thing, telling them something, and on that 640 Cortland, I went on the listing appointment. I told them I thought it was worth 1.1. They didn't like that number, so they listed with Mel for 2.75. Immediately put the square footage of the garage apartment in with the house, because it's really only 3,300 square feet. It's not 4,100 square feet. It's cultured marble, built 15 years ago. It's got 3 step downs, so anyone with kids or anyone that's old is not going to want that sort of thing. The fireplace takes up the whole space, so you can't even have a TV in the living room. It's on the hike and bike trail, which is lovely, except you got plenty of stalkers and crazy people walking by your house all day long. Not everybody likes that. There's no privacy with the hike and bike trail right beside you. I mean, not everyone likes that. You know, so I mean, it's beautiful on the outside. But I mean, when you really look about it, what's that really worth? Is it worth that? I didn't think so. It needs another $100,000 or $200,000 worth of remodel, I thought. And it won't, you know, when you get in higher price, usually they have a family. Well, if it's a 3-bedroom house. You've got 1 or 2 kids, you're out of room immediately. So I just, you know, they're all going to sell. But I didn't think it was the same as 9th Street that I had, you know, which was 4 amazing bedrooms and beautiful pool and summer kitchen and screen porch and formals and a big great room. I mean, that's more desirable. You can still have 3 kids and a game room and all that sort of stuff. It's easier to sell that house at that price range, I think. But yeah, I mean, this is good. Let's keep talking. This is good. But I think you gotta, it's hard to get a buyer. Because like I say, they want to be anonymous, they want to do the work themselves, they don't want to be tied down to one realtor much anymore. They want the flexibility of not being tied down like they used to. And they shop differently. They used to get in a car and go with a realtor, or they used to wait for the realtor to email them a list of things, and they don't need that anymore. It's not the way that they shop.
I think even the sellers are doing that now. Like I was telling you about the place behind my house. This guy's called me like 5 times, and I said, you know, I can't help you out that much. Your realtor needs to be the one doing the work. I said, you know, because you're my neighbor, I'll tell you like some basic things. And basically, he wants me to find somebody so that he can run up whatever offers he's already gotten. He says he has all these cash offers, and I was like, well, take them if you're happy with them, you know. But if not, have somebody run some comps or put it on the MLS so you know that you got the price that is the most, you know, the market value.
You would know real quick if you put it on the MLS.
And he's like, well, if you find someone, send them to me. And I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, why don't you be a little more above board? I don't know about this.
Right.
It makes me nervous, you know. I feel like he's just trying to build the price up.
Mm-hmm. So how do you get these buyers again? I mean, I think it's the same thing. I think we're going to get them a little differently than we got them before. We can't just wait for them to call or come to floor time like we might have used to. I mean, I think you have to go brand yourself somehow. There's a way that M. Pinner can compete with Neiman Marcus. Not everyone wants to go to Neiman Marcus. They want specialized. They want specialized service. I think that's the way to go, carve out a niche of why the small independent restaurant can make it. Nobody in our mindset wants to go to Chili's. In reality, they want to go to the independent guy. So there's this movement at the same time of being anonymous, but at the same time they want a boutique level of service. They want someone to sell them on the lifestyle, to be creative, to be branded. I mean, that's really what I think that we're doing. Finding houses is not what we get paid to do anymore. We get paid to do something else, and that is to provide a level of certainty and a level of service after the house is found that's worth 6% or more to people. You know, it's the homeowner's insurance, it's the repairs, it's the vendors, it's the yard guy, it's helping with the property taxes. It's those sort of services that I think are going to create the loyalty of why people are going to want to use someone, how they're going to refer them, how they're going to feel good about it. Because they're not going to feel good if they find the house and you tell them to bid $30,000 over the asking price. What the hell do they need you for? I mean, it's the mindset that we've got to get over there. And you know, some of it is it reality or not? Because I tell people no all the time. I don't think that one's worth that. I don't think it's worth that. Be patient. You know, let's wait 1 more month and see if the inventory catches back up or in what it is they're looking for. So, but I do think the level of communication's got to be greater than ever. And I think that's foremost of what you're doing. And setting some sort of expectation. Like I say, I tell them, you're going to stalk hard, you're going to find the houses before I do, you're going to Google map it, you're going to know more about that, but I may still know more about the neighborhood. I may be able to bring some insight into the other agent. I might be able to help us. You know, you're going to provide different services than we provided before, I think. Comments on that one?
I took, my buyers got so frustrated last month, and I took them to see some expired listings that, from the previous owner. I said, you can go look at these, and then, well, there's an apartment complex behind. I'm like, well, they expired for a reason. I'm just not really sure which one to tell you. I'm trying to give you options that are not on the market. I've taken you to, you've put offers on houses, we can't get them. I'm racking my brain, trying to help you guys find something, and we can go look in other neighborhoods. But I mean, they were getting really frustrated. They were ready to just rent something, and I was trying my best just to be as patient and showing them at 10 o'clock at night.
It's a
Whatever.
frustrating time to be a buyer. There's just no way around it.
Well, they were frustrated, but they were frustrated without having to write so much more on the offers. But then I said, well, but you're selling your house and you're getting $30,000 over, so it's
Right.
a wash.
That's right, it's a
Yeah.
wash.
It's a wash, and stop complaining. I don't know what else to say. I'm just like, you're getting
Your
30,000
expectations.
here and nothing here.
I guess like my thing is that, you know, how can we be competitive when we have buyers agents who are offering 1.5% back to the buyer? I mean,
Well, there's always someone that's going to be willing to do that, but I think the person who's doing that's probably not offering great advice to them in the first place. You know, not offering the same level of service or expertise as the other people. I mean, I think you've got to look at, there's always someone who's going to do it cheaper than somebody else. But do you, like I say, do you want the discount divorce lawyer? Do you want the discount breast surgeon? Do you want the discount brain surgeon? I mean, I don't think so, not necessarily because they do it for less money. And those people,
somewhere else along the way.
right, the people that do that are probably not going to be in business for a very long period of time, you know, so how have they made it this far? And what's their expectation of being in business later? Because you can't really stay in business. When you really think about it, I mean, I look at 3% on whatever, you know, if 70% goes to the agent, 30% comes here, and the government gets 39.6% of that, and I have to pay for all, I mean, you don't make that much money on each transaction. You need a lot of transactions in order for it to really add up there.
I didn't get that, the people that were selling, my client that was selling their house, wasn't able to get their listing because they went with a $500 flat service. I was like, I can't even compete with that. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna try. I mean, I was trying to give them all the value, but I mean, $500 to go on MLS.
Someone today is going to do that. I mean, there's just no doubt we're going to face stiffer competition of people. Sellers are going to think the house is going to sell themselves without a realtor.
I don't know how because they took pictures, they put the sign in the yard and put them on MLS. I was like, I don't know. They're making like $0.
We had
I
a
don't know
for
what to
sale
do.
by owner in our neighborhood on Althea, and I felt really bad. The man was really old, and my boss's friend, I guess, just drove by the day he put the sign in the yard, and the man didn't realize how cheap he had, you know, trying to sell it.
Right.
Sold it for $200,000.
That's
ridiculous. Well, he did. So I guess after the contract had gone, you know, they signed the contract, whatever. He realized and he tried to get out of it, and then the buyer threatened to sue him because
I'm
he
sure.
didn't want to pay a realtor, but then he lost out on probably like $90,000 to $100,000.
You should get him to write a letter and give it to
sad.
everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, it was so sad
I
because
mean,
they want to pay
it
realtor
happens
fees.
all the time.
But the buyer knew how cheap it, I mean, he literally called him, put an offer, like he paid cash because he knew that it was such a great deal. But the man was so, I just felt bad because he was so old that it's almost like he took advantage of him. I don't know. It was kind of sad.
You know, I think Bill has always stressed that, you know, quality is economy. And the fact that when you're competing against other companies that are offering to do it for less money, they're also offering, you know, they're placing a greater responsibility on the seller themselves or the buyer
Doing the work.
themselves. And the question was, there was a sheet on the table the other day about, you know, there's 5 or 6 reasons why you want to use a realtor, because, you know, you have 250 different options on a contract, you know.
There's lots of boxes and lots
Yeah.
of days to fill out.
There's 400 emails that normally happen during the course of a transaction. There's 10 or 12 different subcontractors, inspectors that you have to deal with. It's easier for us to deal with them than it is for a one-off party to deal with those people, because they're gonna tell them exactly what they wanna hear. With us, they tell us what needs to be done. It's just a whole different process. So what you know, I try to convince the people is that yeah, it's gonna cost you 6%, but you're only looking at the 6%. You're not looking at the value or the money we're gonna save you in all these other areas.
Sure.
That's what I
So-
did have that conversation with them, a long conversation with them about it. And it was really frustrating to me because as soon as they put their house on the market, they had like 15 offers. And they're like, well, see, I didn't need you. And I was like,
Sure you do, to
I was like,
navigate your
but
way
you
through
do.
there and choose the
I
best
mean-
one and get even more money.
well, that's the other problem is he went back and negotiated and got a lot more money and got, I mean, he did a good job, but I mean, I, of course, could have done it for him. He's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna paint my own house, I'm gonna, you know, do this, I'm gonna do, you know, I was like, well, that's good for you. And I just didn't really have any rebuttals for him because he did get a lot more for what and he priced his house, good price, and he higher than everybody else on his street, and he still got tons more money for it.
Right, it's the
So
market.
it's really hard for me to, you know, have any argument against why he should.
And now he's giving you a hard time.
Well, and you also
He's
can tell
giving me a
that
hard
he's a
time.
lawyer,
As a
so he was
buyer.
able to do his own.
Right, he got a buy, I mean, he did negotiate, went back with him, negotiated more, got more money, and I was just like, okay, thank you. I was like, no, please don't tell anybody that you got this.
Well, you know, the other thing too is Bill always says is that, you know, there's possibly, you know, somewhere between 30 and 50 buyers that we have that are already pre-qualified, that are already educated about the loan-to-value ratios, that, you know, are going into the market because they're, you know, possibly have been a lucky loser a couple of times, and now they're better educated, they're a little bit more aggressive in the market. Those are the kinds of guys that we're willing to bring to your house, you know, to negotiate a price of your house. So, you know, they already know that they can't offer below list. They're gonna be coming at list, or they're gonna be coming higher. I said, why, you know, deal with 10 or 12 offers that you're completely dissatisfied with? Why not just get the 5 or 6 offers and they're all over list, and
Right.
they're all already pre-qualified and they're ready to go? You know, I said, when we bring a buyer, you know, there's a certain status, you know, that is associated with Boulevard and the kind of buyers or the kind of sellers that we bring to the table.
It's a hard argument.
Them buyers.
People running into
So I
cash,
need to
big
get used to
houses,
them.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, all the things that, I was just like,
So he benefited from all of that. Now you're representing.
I'm
him.
representing him on his purchase,
And he
but I
will
had
not,
nothing to do with
right,
the
but he
listing.
will, he's not budging
He already sold the
on,
house.
he's giving you.
He sold the house, and
No,
that's
but I'm
all.
saying, for finding him a house, he's being difficult and offering
Well,
more money.
he was really very frustrated because he would say, oh, well, let's just put an offer in and then let's negotiate it. I'm like, they're not negotiating with you. You're putting your best foot forward one time, and that's it. He's like, well, I don't understand why they won't negotiate. I'm like, they're just not going to. It's just, this is not how this is.
Did you negotiate when you were selling yours?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
he did. He went back to every single one and got more money out of all
That's
of them.
silly.
And I was just, he's like, I don't understand why people are just leaving money on the table. I had this long debate with him about it. I said, they're not going to negotiate with you. Just put your best offer in. It's-
Or if they're
and then
negotiating.
he came in and he wanted, like, this one house in Memorial was one day on the market, and he came in and he said he wanted to offer 20,000 less. And I just looked at him and said, so you don't want to make an offer? He's like, no, I want to put a 20,000. I was like, so you don't want to make an offer? He's like, no. And I was like, okay, I'll make the offer, but you're not making an offer. I mean, this is,
No seller's gonna take
take
$20,000
$20,000 less
on day
on
one.
one day. There's another house that was in Memorial, 6 months on the market. I said, I really think you can get a good deal on this house.
Right.
Well, it backs up to an apartment complex. I'm like, yes, but I think you can get a good deal on it. It's a dead-end street. You have 2 kids. Me, I would want to live on a dead-end street personally. I don't particularly, you know, I want my kids to go ride their bikes in the neighborhood or on the street. And he's just like, no. I was like, okay. But you're not going to get this one day on the market for $20,000 less. This one, 6 months on the market, probably so.
Right.
This is what we need to do. Let's just make the offers that I want to make. He's like, okay.
I mean,
So you're not really making an offer.
do what they want you to do.
Well, maybe they come back and negotiate.
Did you make the offer?
Negotiate.
I did.
They
They
want
went
a
for
fair price.
Oh, they didn't even
Right.
respond.
Yeah, she really-
We got a house. It was
Oh,
it's in
good.
Sugar Land. It was
Oh,
a long process, but we finally
You
found
got
it.
a
Okay.
So they're
In
close.
Sugarland, they probably got it.
And
They
it was 4
probably
months on the
did.
market, and they got $10,000 off the price.
That's perfect,
Okay.
then. They
They're
focus
sure
on
they
that.
gonna spend that.
Yeah.
And they'll probably be cursing
They'll
every
spend
day.
that
Well, they'll be
back.
moving back
soon.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, it's a beautiful house.
Well, I mean, even the other day, Bill and I were negotiating with this guy. The first thing he said out of his mouth, he goes, will you do it for 1% less?
Right.
You know, and he goes, I want to sell a house in the Heights, and then I want to buy a house in West U. And so Bill jumped up and says, you know, well, maybe we want to buy the house in Westview first and then sell the house in the Heights secondary. He goes, why do we want to even do that? He goes, if you sell the house in the Heights today, we'll sell it in 5 days. You'll be out in 30 days, and you might not be able to buy a house in West University
Right.
in that
Right.
period. So it's better to find out what when you buy the house, what the terms are for the purchase of the house, because the guy might want to rent back for 30 days or 60
days,
days or
right.
90 days. And then that way we can go, I said, because you'll have nowhere to live, you'll have to move twice. I said,
With a wife and kid.
all that sense of
That's-
frustration and all that moving and all
That's what
that
happens
additional
with-
money,
Mhm.
Yeah,
you know, I said, look at all the money we just saved you.
right.
You know, and he said, okay, well, we won't mess around with it. He saw the value
Yeah, and having somebody,
immediately of
yeah.
having a realtor that knows what's going on, so.
It's frustrating, yeah,
Maybe-
it can be frustrating.
Some people always want a discount. I mean, they just do.
And that's what I told him, I said, you're not paying a realtor for the sale of your house, you're paying $500, and you're getting $30,000 over asking, and you're getting this house at $10,000 less, so I don't wanna hear it. Another word from you about what you're not
Right.
saving or something like that.
And there is a success story of doing that, but there's plenty of people who
Who
never
don't,
want to do
right?
that again, who never had a very good experience trying to sell it themselves. And if you are good at negotiating and you want to be confrontational, a lot of lawyers want to be confrontational, a lot of engineers and geologists
Right.
and doctors don't have time and don't want to do that. So same thing, you just focus on those that want to see the value of our services. Like I say, there's a line out the door at Neiman Marcus over there to pay $395 for a purple black labeled t-shirt from Ralph Lauren. But there are $5 t-shirts at Walmart all day long. And someone's willing to pay $3.95 for one. Let's focus on those people, not the people that want it for $5.
It was, I mean, I was disappointed, but I could tell after about.
I think
10
we're
minutes.
gonna see, you're gonna see, because the people think the houses sell themselves. We didn't have to discount the recession. They saw the value and the need for a realtor who was having to take a very long time and a lot of effort and, you know, and I see that, so now we have, if before our value was in, we're gonna spend a lot of time in open houses and balloons and that, you know, that's what we were doing. Now we have to shift the focus over here and say, what are we really doing? We're creating a sense of value, we're selling the neighborhood, we're service after the sale, we're here for you to help you with these other things, property taxes, making sure you didn't get screwed for the tax proration at closing. I mean, there's services, going over the survey, make sure you don't have inherent liability after the sale, those sort of things. A lot of people will certainly see value in 3% in that,
And I
or an
think-
extra 1.5%.
I also think like about inspections and then having somebody come in and do bids and how we have
Yeah.
access to so many people.
That's
That's a
right.
big deal. Somebody had to do that on their own and try and call people and have them come out
Right.
and, you know, I'll sit there and wait for somebody to come and give a bid, but they might not have the time because they're actually, you know, working
Working,
somewhere
right.
to
Yeah,
earn the
there's
money to buy
hardly
a house.
any
Yeah.
scenario where we don't sell a house and the Coldwell Bank or Greenwood King people get an estimate that I can't go and get an estimate significantly less than their estimates, you know,
Right.
which is inherently saving our people more money.
Right.
Same thing on that, on Omar, she was a relocation person, fine. There was signs at previous tournament, they wanted, you know, $4,000 to tent the house or whatever, and I'm just going, look, I personally don't believe in it. I would not want that, two small children. They're gonna blow a toxic chemical, it's gonna be on all your paint, it's gonna be in your pantry, it's gonna be in your duct system, it's gonna be in your carpet, and then you're gonna move right on in with this toxic chemical that was just poisoned into your deal. And there's no guarantee that the termites are gonna be gone other than 1 second, so if they find termites 30 days later, all they're saying they're gonna do is tent your house again, which means you're either gonna tent it with your crap in there or you're gonna get to move out one more time, and the warranty was good for 1 year. I found Stewart's Pest Control, who will find the source, who will treat the deal, who'll give you a 5-year warranty instead of a 1-year warranty. It was $500, not $4,100, whatever, and the toxic chemical was not in your carpet, your ductwork, or in your pantry.
Right.
Which would you rather have?
Right.
The mother from Virginia was happy to have our treatment, which saved our client $3,600, right? Based on our experience and how much we'd already used that person, but all the time, I think there is value to what it is that we do. We just have to do a good job of promoting that value. So,
Well, I mean, it's, if you're the buyer, you're a one-off person. You're almost like, you know, the only Gentiles pay retail. So, you know, when you negotiate with any vendor, they're gonna charge you the maximum price versus if they use our approved vendor list, you know, they're gonna quote them a builder price because to stay on our approved vendor list, we're giving them steady business. We sold $92 million worth of homes in the Heights alone last year.
Right.
So it's a meaningful relationship to be on our approved vendor list because everybody gets a break. If you can pass that along to the end user, there's value in that. So,
I agree. I just don't like I don't like to debate when people just, when they put their head in the sand and they don't.
That's right. Yeah, there is
I'm
no
like, oh,
point.
I'm not
There is no
having this
point in
conversation.
debating that one, and just let it
Just
go.
let it go.
Let it go and move on.
Well, for some people, it's not the money even. It's,
Right.
I want to get something.
Right.
I
think
want
that's,
it my way.
right,
That's what they want.
right. I agree with you.
That's it. I mean, I've said.
And that's why you
Across
just
from
like,
other
okay.
attorneys, it's like, you know, it's just, I want you to do what I want you to do.
Right.
It's just an ego, it's just the way they do things, and attorneys are terrible at that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the buyer side? I mean, it's frustrating, you just gotta hang in there, and I think at some point, the education is, if we don't get this one and we wait 6 more months, how much more is the next one gonna be? You know, so at some point, we just gotta bite the bullet and buy one and be done with it. I don't know that it's gonna be significantly cheaper anytime soon, nor, you know, the interest rates could rise. I don't know that they're gonna rise significantly this year, but they're going to rise at some point.
well, you know, I guess part of my frustration is, I feel like I'm not doing, you know, if all I can tell you is, this is what they've asked, you better pay more, and when it comes to repairs, they're not gonna do anything because they'd be
Got
happy
that.
for you to turn around and run off and, you know, they'll take their backup with more money. I feel like, what am I doing for you?
You convinced them to buy the house.
Well, I
If
did
they
do
didn't
that.
buy that
I did
house, and they had to buy one 6 months later and it cost more, then they would have hurt themselves without your
Yeah, okay.
advice, without your counsel, without your honesty of what's really going on in the market, because they don't understand that without your explanation.
Well, and I am gonna use you know what, y'all need to stop going to open houses on the first weekend. Quit it, because then 4 days later, you tell me you want that house, and
Right.
guess what? You've accepted an offer already.
Yes.
So, I am gonna tell them, let's quit doing that,
Uh-huh.
because they're all over town, I can't even find an area for these people. No, literally, we have offered in
Frustrating.
Oh, they're
Barker's,
desperate.
Barker's Landing,
Desperate.
Briar
What
Grove
price
Park.
range are they in?
Oh, they're all over the freaking place. The one in Charnwood was $6.99. The first one we offered on that they didn't get in Lakes on Eldridge was like $4.60. They're everywhere.
Seems like it.
Yeah, so I'm just randomly picking things and sending it to them. How do you like that? Well, I don't know, you know, let's go. You know, it's like,
Focus at
whatever.
some point.
But we're gonna start only picking things that have been on the market for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And quit going to open houses.
Yeah, unless they're
On the first
market
day,
On the
yes.
first day. Don't go on the first day, unless you're willing to pay a lot.
Because I usually get a call from them on Sunday nights, like, oh, really, where were you today?
Mhm.
Oh, we were in, you know, we were off San Felipe.
Very
Oh,
sure.
interesting, last week you were in, you know, Camp Logan, and the week before we were in, you know, wherever. Just all of
What are the issues we're having in 2014?
Brokers offering to buy your house in Oak Forest and not pay any realtor fees?
I got 2 letters this last week, you know, from buyers who wanted to buy my house. I mean, I get those all the time. I get letters from realtors all the time who did a lot of homework
What
to
do you
figure
do?
out
We have
that.
Norena though, who's offering not to pay anything, because, you know, obviously he's working with a builder, so he knows he's gonna make money on the back end once the house is being built. How do you compete with that?
Well, he's gonna offer you X, and I'm gonna put it in the marketplace, which is gonna yield a higher amount, because he just really wants to tear down the house and build new houses, and you see value in their house, and you wanna build a neighborhood that's mixed with diversity, not just a bunch of new houses.
Not just territory.
Jump right on that. I mean, he just wants land value, he doesn't want to give you
Yeah.
any credit for the value of your home, which some young home buyer will be willing to pay for, because it's the entry-level home into the neighborhood. You know, and so, yeah, jump out there and you write your own letter right quick and say, let's don't tear down the whole neighborhood, let's put value back into the homes that were a starter neighborhood to begin with. I think there's a lot of value to that. Take an ad out in the leader and say that and counteract him right quick. Because he will piss off plenty of people who are offended by what he's willing to
Tearing
offer.
down the trees and,
Well, some people, they've lived in that house for a long time.
They have an
They wanna
emotional
see
tie to it.
grow,
There are plenty of people that don't
Yeah.
want to sell to a builder. You know, so I think there's a way to compete against that, okay?
What about, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I am doing movie night in the park.
I heard that, that was very good.
Yeah.
Who told me? Ron told me.
Yeah.
The Candlelight Park?
No, in Oak Forest, movie night.
That
I
was
thought
good.
it was a good one.
That was a
It
great
good,
thing.
so.
Which
They
part?
said you jumped right on that.
The Oak Forest one? Doing in Oak Forest. They do movie
No,
night.
no, I'm familiar with Oak Forest, I
Yeah.
live in Candlelight Plaza.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's movie night. It's May.
Just trying to figure out which part.
What'd that cost you?
They do it at, I'm doing Acorn, so $250. Not that bad.
That was good.
So
That was
there's
good, though.
different levels, but I just
I
know
think
way to
that's
promote
the young
myself.
families who
Yeah.
might go with the
Yeah.
kids who are gonna be most mobile. I mean, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Are you gonna
And
be
then-
up on stage before movie night?
Right? No. I'm starting, so I was telling Jennifer, they also have, I guess, they have a bike club where they bike, run, walk with the babies, and I told Jen, I said, we need to start doing that.
Right.
Even if, you know, we don't run, we can take our kids just because it's another way to get our name out there, start hanging out with the
Absolutely.
group every Tuesday at 6:30 in the
Absolutely.
evening.
They have friends that wanna
So-
move into the neighborhood.
Yeah. So trying to.
They add
do
kids,
that.
which means they don't fit in that house anymore.
Yes, and I see, you know, Justin Gordon all the time, I saw my son Chris, so trying to get him out there. But I also have my son up at gymnastics, and I actually had a marketing guy call me yesterday, and he just said, I've been seeing your name everywhere, you're in the Heights page now, you're over at gymnastics, he's like, you're just everywhere now. I was like, well, I'm trying to market myself
That's
and
good.
get my name out there.
You gotta get your name out. Great places.
Yeah. So, need to brainstorm some more ideas.
What were you saying?
Oh, no, it was just that too, the letters that people are sending out. Like, you probably got the same one from the guy who's like a lab technician and he really wants to buy the house for cash and, you know, he's doing me a big favor by not involving realtors in the sale of the house, you know, because I really want to get rid of my house
Right.
that bad. And I just think, is there a law against people just sending letters randomly out? I mean, what if somebody goes with that? I mean, it'd be terrible.
Some people do.
Yeah. Oh.
Don't, it's timing, it's.
That's
Yeah.
how my girlfriend got a lot in Spring Branch, because she was like, you can't get a lot unless you do that. So she literally was knocking down, I guess had found out all the old people, knocking on doors and sending letters, and she finally got a lot on her own without even getting a realtor.
Oh, really?
Because she said that was the only way that she was able to do it.
She was able to go exactly where she wanted to go.
Yep.
Well, I think this is a random letter sent out to like a whole neighborhood.
to
I don't
everyone.
think it's a legitimate, I mean, I'm sure it's not legitimate. His name is like Fernando Fernandez.
Right.
You know, it's not even like a real name almost.
Right.
They put two names together.
John
and
Johnson.
kind of sounded good. But I don't know, I just thought that was kind of, I guess you just get more and more of those because the value's going up.
Yeah. I mean, Monica Silber used to always, it was basically a stock letter, and then she signed her name and said, have a buyer for your house, but she didn't really have a buyer, she was just hoping to get a telephone call. For
Right.
years, I used to get those letters from her. It's just something else someone does.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works once, they'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
And we write letters, I mean, I got a lot in Braes Heights. My clients would only want to live in like the 38 and 3900 block of Dumbarton, or, you know, they gave me like 4 streets, and we just kept writing letters, and finally someone died, and the executor called me, and we ended up getting that deal. You know, but I mean, that's a way to do it. I mean, it just gets frustrating.
It's very
It's
specific.
right. Mhm. Same thing in that neighborhood, that Steve Anton was very popular, and he'd done a lot of things or whatever. But he had pissed off just enough people. There were plenty of people that did not want to use Steve Anton, you know. So I mean, when there's a big guy like Mel, which is big, I mean, but it's the same thing. I think they're poised for some new people over there, because you get a builder, you get 5 builders, you get 10 builders. At some point, they're going to get jealous of one another. What are you doing for the 9 that you're not doing for me, you know, sort of thing. And so you're going to peel off 1 or 2 of the builders, right? you got a lot, who are you gonna give it to? You got a rotor, you know, a raffle going on over there, so, you know, I think some of those builders are easy to pick off out of there. And there's plenty of them that don't wanna list until the bidder ends, so they may not have a listing agreement. And you can keep showing the house over and over and over and
I
bring
mean,
them a
if the house is being built but does not have a realtor sign in front of it, approach those people.
Absolutely.
But don't approach the ones that have, you know,
No,
no sign in the
let's
front.
don't do that. No,
Really
let's
hard.
not do that. Yeah, right.
And
Although Billy seems to be sinking over to Brett.
Mhm.
I think he's just trying to get his name out, that's what I think, I don't know. But yeah, consumers.
Cause you know the one right there on Ella, and I guess I'll dig it.
Yeah.
That's Brett's name.
It's Justin Gordon, it's got Brett's name.
Brett has one on Chippendale also,
Mhm.
on Justin Gordon.
Mhm.
Trying to get in, I don't think he's gonna let Billy go, so.
No comment. What else we got? No comments over there? Made any offers, Bill? You made some offers for your dad there?
I had.
Anything close?
Well, I've been knocking on doors, pulling tax records, and then driving up to their houses. And one guy had the same name as his son, and he had recently gifted the lot to his son. And so I had courted the dad, and the dad was like, "Yeah, I think I do want to sell it to you, but my son owns it. He had the same name." So I went and talked to his son, who told me he would never sell it to me, and threw in like a little veiled threat as well about staying out of their neighborhood. So not yet, but
Yeah.
not done.
But yeah, I think you gotta do something. You gotta place an ad. You gotta sponsor a movie night or a baseball league or something. I mean, I think everyone's got to be doing a little bit of something in order to try and stir some activity. And it's often not. You can have movie night and it'll be over, and they'll come back to you 5 months later and say, "Oh yeah, you know, you can't just do it and expect someone to come that night. It's a cumulative deal." And then try and tailor your stuff back into whatever we're doing. If I'm sponsoring something else or the firm's sponsoring something, then you send out an email blast and a Facebook post and tell your friends and see if you can't, you know, drum something up that way.
There's another one at our gala that, they've asked me to sponsor, I don't know if you want to do it with me or not, but it's, I forgot what she called it, but basically like the logo bounces.
On the
Like a
website?
projector or something?
Yeah, like, so everyone will be walking by and they take a picture on this,
And this is Oak Forest having that gala?
no, St.
St.
Teresa's.
Teresa's.
Oh, okay.
But, I forgot what she called it, oh, step something,
Get the
Something on
scoop
top
and
of
see
it?
how much.
yeah,
it
step and
costs.
repeat,
Mhm.
step and repeat.
We
And-
sponsored the Garden Oaks home tour, whatever, was that last weekend or something?
No, it's
No,
next,
it's next
this.
weekend.
Is it this weekend?
The
Yeah,
27th.
I wanted to do that too, but it's gonna be gone.
Is that effective, the step and repeat? Because they've only asked me to do it, so one of the moms was like, well, I hope no one's gonna get offensive if it's just your logo's on there. I'm like, well,
It's
they
so
only,
rude.
well, I'm on the board, so they asked me. So,
What's that cost?
but, they told me between 300 and 600,
It's probably worth that.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot, you know, a 3, 4, 250, 300s, a bunch of those things are probably worth it. You know, you start getting into, I mean, that Oak Forest thing, $10,000 sponsor and $5,000, I mean, it's hard for me to justify paying that much. but we
You
were-
mean the Garden Oaks home tour?
Mhm. Which we did,
They weren't that
In years
expensive.
We did
past,
500.
you could sponsor a house for like $250 or something.
whatever sponsorship we did was 500, so let's see what we get for
Next
that.
weekend, yeah, I
I'm gonna
really
go.
wanna go.
You
to
are?
it, yeah, we got-
Maybe, well, I'm sure we probably get some tickets for our $500. I'll check into that.
Yeah.
That's some clients that we're going to go to.
Right.
I'm really bummed that I'd be out of town that weekend.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to go and work it. That's what I was trying to do, was actually go work it and
Mhm.
talk to everybody.
Are there
As much
shifts
as
available?
possible. At Garden Oaks
I'm
Home Tour?
sure there
No.
are.
I'll get you some more information.
So other than that, I mean, I think just coming to the meetings and staying topical, I mean, that's something, that, I mean, a lot of firms, a lot of agents don't have access to up-to-date information, you know, whether that's flood insurance or whether that's, you know, homestead exemption or tax prorations. I mean, some of those sort of things are some way to also set yourself apart. We're already really doing that sort of thing. But yeah, I think the industry is evolving, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what impact There will be a balance again. It's not always going to be this way. I mean, it'll shift back again to something in the middle. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And I don't think it's going to happen in 2014. I think it'll still be imbalanced for a while. But there are more houses being built, but there's just more buyers than ever. So we'll see what happens with that. And more people are now, as we sell some of those things, they finally can afford to sell. You know, a lot of people would sell, they just don't even know where to go. You know, so.
I hear that all the time. I would love to sell my house, but I can't afford anything else.
Right.
So.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But I think a lot of these neighborhoods that people have, I mean, the Heights, the same thing. As Westview gets expensive, the Heights becomes more affordable. As the Heights gets more expensive, Oak Forest becomes more affordable. As Oak Forest gets more expensive, Spring Branch will be more. I mean, the people will they'll look at new neighborhoods they hadn't considered before.
Which I think is, I mean, Houston, obviously there's no zoning and it's like, you know, here's a great neighborhood and right next to it isn't. But I was noticing like closer to Yale and Cross Timbers, like there's a lot more Melrena signs kind of leading.
They've all,
He's
absolutely.
shifting to spring, the back part of
Well, he's
Spring
doing a lot
Branch.
of Spring Branch too, but I mean, that Yale and Cross Timbers area has always been kind of less expensive and
Mhm.
I mean, it's always been like a line.
Oh, right past the enchilada house that's been.
Yes, yes, you know,
Used to be
that's
next to
too.
Tessin.
Yeah.
He's had those signs on that lot for,
Oh, we have.
But even I
Years.
sold, there were new
Those have
construction
been up
on
there
Brinkman over there.
for
We
2
had
years.
I sold a little house, you know, it's right over there. What's
Yeah.
the church?
Oh, well, I know that there's some ones like right behind that new gym,
Uh-huh.
but I'm talking about further down Cross Timbers.
Yeah, but you don't know if Mel Reyna really is representing that lot or not, just because he has a sign on it.
he's had a sign on
He's
that
had
lot
a sign
that you're
on that lot.
talking
He has
about
for a while.
for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I just
Part of his advertising.
I
You
think
just
maybe I'm
started
sitting
look-
in traffic.
You just started looking for it or
Yeah.
whatever, but yeah.
I was wondering, maybe they're gonna start building over here, but I just think it's interesting that as houses get a lot more expensive in Garden Oaks, I mean.
They're forced to go
literally-
somewhere.
Well, I know, but literally, you can buy a house on Yale for like $100,000, or, you know, on the other side of Yale for like $100,000, and it's just.
Well, it's kind of like the ones on Nadine. There was people when I did the open house that were like, I can't believe these are $499. And I'm like, okay, why can't you do it? Like, I just can't believe it. And I'm like, well, we are on the other side of North Main, so it is about 60,000 less than you would
That's
trade
right.
if you were on the other side.
Right.
But they were just in shock about how brand new that, you know, because it's brand new construction and what the price was. I'm like, then make an offer and stop, you know.
But those were
Talking about that.
185 a foot
No,
Hey, it's a make an offer.
they were 187.50 a square foot versus on the other side of 20th, coming back to Sixth Street, you're in the 275
Right.
to
I mean, Ashton
335.
Steel on 11th
Yeah.
Street, right there, those loose stumps are $285 a foot. The backyard is 6 feet by 25, and then you have a staircase leading. I mean, there's no grass, and the air conditioning units sit right there. I mean,
Yeah.
for $285 a foot on 11th Street, I'd rather live on Nadine.
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, and it was easier to sell those homes because I said, really, if you think about it, there's already built-in equity because Bill's building homes
Yeah,
on
we have the next ones
24.
are 550.
Yeah, and the ones behind it are gonna be more, right,
Uh-huh.
on the 23rd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's a funny time, interesting times in real estate. Okay, anything else to talk about in this genre? I just wanted to have this little dialogue. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you. We'll pick back up next week at the sales meeting. We'll do inspections and some of those things we talked about.
Perfect.
All right. And we're gonna videotape how to do a contract and how to do a few of those things too, for people that are interested in that. And then if you're interested in coming on a listing agreement or a closing, that's what I do. All right, perfect.